welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And Josh.
We're coming at you with a triple threat of all three of us here, which we haven't really done. When was the last time that we were at least all on a podcast together? I know it's been a good moment.
A long time.
Probably years, man.
Yeah, probably a decade.
It was back in the old days when all you needed was a microphone and you put it between everybody and you met up in person. Know?
Right.
And hell yeah. It's been a good while, but we decided we needed to go back and do a little playthrough of Metal Gear Solid, the original 1998 experience, and all its classic glory, because it's a game that is always amazing, always holds up, always is that pinnacle part of this is how an amazing story should be told, can be played, can be experienced. Sometimes I always think for every generation, there's probably like a certain video game that stands out as that one that really kind of breaks the mold and takes you to this completely different place you never thought you were going to go to, and gives you this radical story that pulls at like all the emotions and so on like that. I a lot of times think that Metal Gear Solid is the one of like kind of our generation. You see it with a little bit younger kids. That Last of Us is that game for them. Well, I say younger kids. By now they're adults. There's probably for the younger kids. There's probably some other game out there right now that's there and do like, oh shit, did you see that, man? Like, oh, I didn't fucking expect that. Because I remember, because I was like, when Last of Us, I felt like that one, it's just like people like, oh my god, they killed Joel. You just felt like you need to light a cigarette and be like, it ain't that big a fucking deal.
Right.
Maybe you need a little bit of pain in your life.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I like Joel, but I could carry on. You know what? That's just what happens. I just kept playing the story. It was fine. What, you got a problem with that?
Yeah. You don't know the life on the battlefield.
Death. What do y'all know about death?
I'm no hero.
Them killing Joel is what ruined Last of Us Part 2 for me. I was I'm not going to play it.
See, that bothered everybody. I was just like, nah. I just kind of went along with it. And
I was also tired with how many remakes. It's joining the ranks of Skyrim and damn, what is it? Resident Evil 4, just being remade onto every platform and system.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Last of Us only it has like 3. It's got one for each one. It's like PS3, 4, 5.
Right.
And they're all kind of the same thing, just more like remastered, slightly more in each version. But,
right.
But yeah, and it was one of those ones. Last of Us 2, I thought it was fun, and I even went along. I'm like, I like the other character more. I'm gonna say it. I kind of went with her story. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not as invested in these characters. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that game, but to me, it's like they weren't like Solid Snake. They weren't like the Resident Evil characters. I felt like I have more of an attachment to those kind of ones. Like, Joel and Ellie were just like, okay. I turned their story on. I wanted to see what it was like. You're
like, hell yeah, I'm driving a Subaru too. Ellie's my girl, dude.
That's really what I want. I want that third Last of Us game to be like Ellie's like 52 years old. And she's like sitting at the edge of a bar smoking a cigar because she wouldn't smoke a cigarette. You know what I mean? She's got a fucking eye patch on. Never explains why she has an eye patch the whole game. You know what I mean? And she's just this like bitter old mercenary by this point.
I could see it. I could totally see it.
I think that'd be badass, because that's how I feel like she is at the end of the day. Like, the end of that second game, it's just like, she doesn't give a fuck anymore. You know what I mean? She's so burnt out and so what? I don't care anymore. I've seen a lot of shit.
Yep. Yep.
She could be like the big boss of like Outer Heaven there.
There you go. Perfect.
Right.
But going into Metal Gear Solid here, the old classic, I was going to say, what version did everybody decide to play theirs on?
It was whatever the Master Collection is what I had.
Yep.
Yeah, I went with the Master Collection, but on the Switch version.
Yep. I, as always, played on Steam. So.
Well, this is the bummer thing. Is I really like the whole reason. Like I remember like thinking about this podcast. I was like, man, I really want to play through that GOG PC version. Where it's going to look crystal clear because that's always how those old PC versions of games are. And I started it up, and I was like, man, it looks great. It looks fantastic. I mean, it's all the polygons, but they're like clear as day. And then I get about literally probably 2 or 3, screens in, and I go, oh. The controls aren't inverted. Oh, that's kind of weird. Well, let me flip through here. Okay, go through the options, go through all the stuff. And I was like, I couldn't find the inversion controls to save my life, which is weird for the fact that this game is $99 on PC. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's not like it's one of those modern day ones where like, because sometimes y'all buy games nowadays that I can tell that kids have made in a sense that didn't realize that, there used to be a thing called inversion. People used to fly fighter jets back in the day.
Yep.
And you'll get some games where like people forget that part. But it was weird. This one for an older game, I could not find it. Maybe it's there, but maybe you have to go into like one of those ones where you have to open up the start menu on the PC and go look for that like third settings or whatnot. But so I was like, well, I know I can't do this because when it gets to Sniper Wolf or the fucking Hind D fight, and if my controls are not inverted, that is going to be. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to handle that.
100%. Until you have the bandana, because if you have the bandana and you're fighting Sniper Wolf, you just mash square. Yeah, you're like machine gun firing. Like she can't go anywhere. She just gets hit the whole time.
Yeah, that might not be too bad, but it's that weird thing though that like when you get to like the other control scheme, and I know it goes the other way around for people that aren't used to inverted controls, but you get it and you just start walking around like this, and you're like, Jesus, I can't see anything.
I've never played a video game in my life.
It looks like you got beer goggles on or something like that.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah, no, I decided I was gonna go with that Switch on the Switch version with the Master Collection, and all the bells and whistles in that version are super cool. The bummer kind of is though is that game is like stuck at like 320p. They don't allow it to like upscale like it should, but it's okay. It still works out. It's still just as fun, and it controls fine on there. But yeah. That was my long way of getting around of not being able to play the GOG one.
So I have the GOG version as well, and I totally should have played that version, but I wanted to get the achievements on Steam, which is why I chose that version. The GOG version is properly the PC version for sure. This version on Steam, this Master Collection thing, I am assuming that it came from the HD collection from the PS2, Xbox 360 era, or it could just be straight up just the original PS1 version or whatever, because there are core differences that I've noticed between those two, between GOG and Steam. What was neat about this run for me is that I didn't play it on my desktop. I played it on my Steam Deck and got to lay in bed and like play this shit, like that. Similar to like, the Switch, like you got to play and whatnot. And it's perfect for that, I'm actually really looking forward to playing through the rest of the series on Steam Deck now too, just to have portable on the go. It's really nice. So.
No, that's pretty sweit. I didn't play my Switch one at all portable wise. I just had it hooked up to the TV. No, it was cool.
Well, and NGS1 translates perfect for a handheld too. Like just the controls and everything, it's perfect.
Yeah, and it probably looks really good on the handheld just because of the screen size probably makes the graphics look, that makes them like pop actually.
Well, that paired with the Steam Deck's OLED display, like the OLED display is so sharp, especially with these older games like that. It looks so good. So yeah, I was very happy with that.
No, that's cool. And Josh, you played yours on PS4?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Now, mine was not fancy. Mine was just down and dirty.
Yep.
Yeah, that's okay. That was the same way.
It was meant to be played.
That was what the Switch one was. It just had no achievements because it's Switch.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't.
I wasn't able to get the third completion in time because I got distracted. Finally got a PlayStation 5, and then I've been playing Oblivion and Cyberpunk. the whole time.
That would do it. You get a new system, and it's kind of hard to be like, even though a lot of times, I don't know what it is. I do the strangest thing. Whenever I buy a new system, I kid you not, it seems like day of, I'm at some point putting in an old game and going, I wonder how this is going to look on here, you know?
I downloaded Metal Gear Solid on my PlayStation 5. That was the first game I downloaded.
Yeah, I've done that like every single time a new system comes out. I'm like, well, let's pop this older disc in. I just want to see what it looks like. You know, it was even like when I got the Switch 2. It was like, I think first thing I was doing was trying to see what one of the older games would look like. But did any of you guys look through on that Metal Gear Solid Master Collection the booklet that came with it? I mean, digital booklet it is.
Nope.
I did parts. Not completely through the booklet. I started it, and then I went and watched like all the briefing tapes and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and then I forgot. To be completely honest, because like once you're in the game, you just like shut your system down. Like I never went back in to have to restart anything.
No, that makes sense. I kind of went back to it later on because I looked at it first and I was like, I'll come back to this. And I went through it all and I was like, oh, this thing's actually pretty badass. It just gives all kinds of cool little tidbits and details and stuff like that. And I'm assuming is ones for each game. I guess I don't remember looking at number 2 or 3 even yet, but is the fact that it just kind of goes in there and then it sort of links stuff into like if it does link into any of the other Metal Gears, it has it throughout there, but it still stays relevant to Metal Gear Solid 1. It's not like it starts jumping around all the other ones. It's like, no, it's all this. But if a character happens to have these certain connections, well, then they'll pop that little bit of information in there and so on. I thought they just did a really good job on that part.
Yeah.
Dude, they've always done so good on that. Like, you remember in Metal Gear Solid 4, it came with the chronological, like, index that you could down. Like, I can't remember a whole lot about it. Yeah, but I remember like it was like, welcome to MGS history class. Like, here you go. Here's your important dates.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was like with I think Metal Gear Solid 4 and then I think the Metal Gear Solid 3 special edition. They came with those DVDs on each one, and those things were really badass because one, that was a time period where like almost no video games had special features. That was like kind of unheard of, and you got this cool the Masterworks DVD that came with it and whatnot, and gave you all the the backstory and history, like almost like in a documentary. It was probably like an hour long each or something. I thought those were so neat.
Yeah, I still have my original Metal Gear Solid 4, like the limited edition version that came out at that time, and I still have that Blu-ray, everything up there. Yeah, it is super neat.
You need to rewatch it. You need to rewatch it and tell me if there's anything about Kojima and his foot fetish. I need to know.
Okay.
I need to know.
Him and Tarantino hanging out together.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Quentin, I gonna digitally copy the foot.
Well, it is kind of funny because when you do look at like Kojima games, like they are like very similar to like a Tarantino movie in a sense,
right?
Where they focus a lot on the dialogue, the characters, and all that kind of stuff. It throws in pop culture references, and then when there is action, it is limited, but when it is there, it's like extremely badass.
Yeah,
right. I was thinking about that when going through because it's been a long time since I beat MGS1. Last time was in like probably 2011 was the last time I beat it. So it's been, it wasn't fresh, but those cutscenes, really watching the Hollywood style that he crafted every single cutscene element, and thinking that, I tried to think of a game before MGS1 where that was, the prominent style for storytelling within the video game media. Because it's like that now. Ever since MGS1, that is like a common thread everybody does.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing. I was thinking that too, because I was trying to think of a game. I'm like, what game came before this that has something even remotely close to pretty much being like a full-on movie experience? Of course, the cutscenes do exist. Sega CD has cutscenes. Things like Lunar have cutscenes, but there's not like a copious amount of them. There's
right, and a different approach to it, right?
Yeah. It's not just that like full-on, you have a whole movie dialogue. And the fact that the voice acting is extremely good in this game, I think that's You know, because even though as much as I love Resident Evil and all that stuff like that, Resident Evil kind of always plays out in the early ones, kind of like a B movie. You know, especially the first one. But that's just because there's a bunch of Japanese guys like, good job. You know, they're like, sure, they're speaking English. You know, it'd be the same thing if us sat down and there's a couple Japanese people here and they're reading lines, be like, sounds great. Hey, you know what I mean? Right. You guys sound like professionals.
Now, I'd be really curious to figure out, or at least find out, like the history of how Kojima found, or at least how Kojima Productions found David Hayter, because like he is like I mean, I guess anybody can do that voice, you know, before David was actually the voice actor for Snake, but nowadays it's like, even playing like MGS5, like it is impossible for me to like think of that character without David Hayter's voice, you know. Like Kiefer Sutherland did an okay job, I guess, you know. And it makes sense like lore wise in that game of, you know, like who Naked or whatever Venom Snake is and all that. Anyway,
hey, what do you say, man? He spoiled the 15-year-old game, bro.
Yeah.
You didn't get the mission 52 or whatever.
Yeah. Content, Jesus. But no, I David Hayter is like, I mean, all the voice actors and actresses in this game are fucking solid to begin with, but David Hayter in particular is like just the voice of my childhood, you know. Like this was the first like
100%
video game I played, you know.
Oh, and he changes it for each MGS game. Like MGS 3, he's like very upbeat. Solid Snake's kind of like more cynical. And then MGS4 Solid Snake sounds like an old fucking dude.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
David Hayter is a boss.
No, he's the best. That's pretty much the most shocking thing about Metal Gear Solid 5 more than anything else is not having David Hayter.
Right.
And here's the thing: is like I love Kiefer Sutherland. There's nothing wrong with Kiefer Sutherland. If it was a live action movie and they said Kiefer Sutherland was playing Solid Snake, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. But that was the one who was like, what do you do and replace him for the voice actor? It seems sort of like blasphemy, you know, and so on. As I said, they kind of write it into the story that it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, when everybody else is all like, well, Big Boss has the same voice, I just assume they all have the same voice. They're all clones.
No, it's just Konami trying to sell as many units as they can by bringing in a large voice actor. I mean, that's literally all that is, you know, and I don't think it worked myself, but...
Well, that's one of those ones, I'll say this, like, just as, like, when it comes to video games in general, like, when has putting an actor in a video game ever made a difference in the game? Unless it's a movie video game. That's the only time I think that's different. Like if it's 007 and you got Pierce Brosnan doing the voice, that's different. But for any game that's just like it's a video game first and foremost, I feel like it takes away from video games when you try to put a real actor into it. It throws it off. Like it's kind of got like a weird uncanny feel. And it's not saying that a game can't be good, but I just think that like video games have never been sold on an actor. Like it's not a movie, you know what I mean? Nobody cares.
I think it depends, because playing Cyberpunk and I see Keanu and I'm like, fucking love you, Keanu. Let's go, bro.
Well, it's my hardest part about playing Death Stranding, guys. So like I picked up Death Stranding 2 just came out last week, right? So I started playing it again, and the same fucking thing. I want to believe that that's Sam Bridges. I want to so bad, but no, dude, that's Daryl Dixon. That's like, you know, that's that dude, you know, it's that actor. And like in any game that has ever had like at least a facial like realism based off the actor, and the other one that comes to mind is Kevin Spacey in one of those Call of Duty games from, you know, forever ago.
Oh, that's right.
Super uncanny, and it just doesn't work, dude. It just doesn't. You know, I would much rather like have Kevin Spacey's voice with a different character model, you know, or you know, like whatever. But yeah,
well, it's weird fourth wall breaking. Like I feel like that's what it does in video games. And once again, unless it's a movie game, you know, that's the only time that I feel like it's okay. But you know, it's a weird one. But I will say when you go back to Metal Gear Solid and the voice acting in this one, though, what makes this one just far superior even to like Twin Snakes, and I love the living daylights out of Twin Snakes, don't get me wrong, but the voices are much more dialed in this one here, especially things like Mei Ling, because once they take away Mei Ling's Chinese accent, it makes me so angry in that one. You know, and then even
and Gray Fox as well. They changed his voice.
And it's funny because the dude that actually voices Gray Fox and Twin Snakes, I like him as a voice actor a lot. It's the dude who does Raphael and Ninja Turtles, and he's also like, and like he's like Wacko and like, and Pinky and the Brain and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I like the voice that I love the voice that he has in this one, So much better. It just feels like it fits more there. Of course, they keep like 90% of the actors, but just you change a couple of them, it does throw it off just a tad bit in Twin Snakes.
Yep. I kind of wish I would have played Twin Snakes version because I have it. I just didn't. I guess I just wanted those Steam achievements, but yeah.
Well, I do that thing where a lot of times I rotate. Like, so if I play Twin Snakes, then the next time I'll play the original one. And, so probably the next time I'm going to play through Metal Gear Solid 1 again, I'll play Twin Snakes. Yeah. Because I've put a lot of time into Twin Snakes as well.
It's fun, too. It's fun to compare the cutscenes. Like, Snake and Liquid up on the catwalk before Liquid gets into Metal Gear Rex. On Twin Snakes, that's like one of the coolest cutscenes ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
That shit is fucking dope.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
But the tank battle cutscene, you're like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them get a little bit weirdly over the top. Like, all in all, I mean, I'll probably say this. If you had to ask me what my favorite Metal Gear Solid game was, I probably would still say Twin Snakes. I really love that version. I think just adding all the extra bells and whistles in there really makes for it. But at the same time, just the classicness of the PlayStation version and where I was when that game came out, I just remember literally the first time I played it. We all had a buddy back in the day named John Bumgarner, and he brought this game over to my house like in '99. He's like, dude, you got to check this thing out. And it was just those time periods where you just, like, there'd be a couple of you sitting over at the house, and like nobody's playing the same video game. Everybody's just got a different console going on, a different TV. And I popped in Metal Gear Solid, and I just remember playing it right off the bat. And first, I don't know, probably got caught and killed about 4 times before I kind of really figured out how this game works. Which I noticed that, like, whenever you show Metal Gear Solid to anybody, like, all my, like, initial, like, playthroughs of watching people, like, they always just get their ass handed to them right off the bat. You know what I mean? Until you get used to how the game plays. And for the fact also, too, like, in 1998, I can't think of too many other stealth games I really played either.
Right.
You had to sneak around and some first-person shooters.
You become accustomed. You become accustomed with the controls, and then you also, with a game like MGS, you memorize patterns. It's always the same fucking patterns over and over again.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is.
Well, it's for me, dude. Like I haven't played it as well for quite a while, not as long as you've taken a break from it. But I think like last time I played this was probably like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. What's funny to me is that like Spence's origin story for me, like. I remember playing Metal Gear Solid for the very first time. I was like 9 or 10 years old. I got poison oak really bad, and I had to stay home from school for a week because I like get it. Like I'm like deathly allergic to the shit. And my parents like would go to work in the morning or whatever, and I had the original PlayStation that my mom bought for me and partly for my stepdad at the time. And I had my games, so I had like. I don't know, like Oddworld, and I had, like motocross games and
Spyro.
Stuff, like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, exactly, like games like that.
Yeah.
And I remember my stepdad had his stash of games. There were all the M games, and Mom wouldn't let me play the M games or whatever. Well, they're gone, so I'd start digging through his stash, and I see that game, and I see Metal Gear Solid. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I remember popping it in, and like. The very first, it frames through the tunnel scene or whatever, Snake's like swimming in and all that, and then you're in the first like landing area. And I remember like trying to figure out the controls to begin with, and then like just walking through that puddle for the first time, and then somebody gets alerted, and then they start like, what was that? Start walking toward. That blew my 9-10-year-old mind, of just like, holy, like games can do this? Like, what, knocking on the walls and like just all the random mechanics and stuff you could do. Dude, Metal Gear blew my mind at that time, and was again, I would very much consider Metal Gear Solid to be like my introduction into video games, proper anyways. They made me into the gamer I am today, I would definitely say.
Yeah, mine's identical to yours, man. My copy of MGS was my brother's, and I just played it one day. And I remember when I finally got to where you get to the DARPA chief and you and Meryl have that gunfight against the guards. I remember like that getting to that point was such an achievement that I went to school. It's like, it was so fucking hard. I died so many times. Killed like 100 guards, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, you had to keep going with it. Well, that was the thing too, is like, especially the first time you play the game when you have no idea where you need to go, you don't know what anything's going to happen, you're just literally exploring. Like, it feels like you can explore those first 5 areas like quite a bit, know, and eventually just go, oh, this is where I need to go, where I need to climb through this air duct right here, and get past this, and where am I going next, and so on like that, where nowadays, when you know where everything is, you blast through the game in like 6 hours or something like that. Yep. And that's still watching all the cutscenes.
Yep.
Dude, I did a flex like the last time I played it in 2011. I was in Afghanistan, and my buddy had it on an emulator, and he was playing it, and he was fucking up, and like kept getting alert and having to dive back in the water. And he was like, "Oh, fucking tank controls," and I was like, "Bitch, here, let me show you. I'll show you how to play Metal Gear." Dude, I beat that game in like 4.5 hours, like while everybody was watching. They're just like I'd be up against a wall, and the snake would go around, just fire, like a guard would die, and they'd be like, "How'd you know there was a dude there?"
Yeah. Patterns, baby.
Yeah. Like, this is like played through 8. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you just light a cigarette, you're like, what, you didn't sense that guard there?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
you have rookie eyes.
Unlike me, who has passionate passionate eyes. Lovely. But that's the other thing too, I think, that makes Metal Gear Solid so interesting too, is it's one of those games that's, especially for back in the day too, where like there's so many different ways you can go about going through any situation in this game. It's never like just like, oh, this one weapon is what you need to kill this boss, and that's kind of it, or you have to use this one key item. No. There's literally so many ways you can go about it, and especially even just each boss battle, there's a different tactic that you can pull out, and even stuff where like, I wonder if this works, and then surprisingly, it's like most of the time it's like, yeah, it actually does work. You can do that. Right.
Yeah, I tried so hard to kill Revolver Ocelot once I got the bandana, because that's when it's just time for fun. Yeah. Like, you put C4 on guards' backs and let them just walk around, and you detonate everybody at the same time. Yep. But yeah, I tried to set C4 on the walls to damage them that way and not blow up Baker, but I blew up Baker every single time. I would get too close.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some of those ones that are a little bit more tougher than others, for sure. Yeah, poor Baker.
So yeah. I had an infinite loop of so on this last. So I'm on playthrough 2 now. For this podcast episode, basically, I didn't finish it yet, but I had an infinite run glitch of Ocelot in that room where he was still firing at me. He wouldn't stop to shoot like he normally does. That gives you the time to catch up to him to fire your rounds or whatever. He was just running and just shooting at the same time and reloading, and he wouldn't stop. So I had to like restart, or whatever. Like something happened, like something glitched. I don't know. But I've never.
Because you can never catch up to him.
Yeah. Yeah, because then if you try to turn around, he'll just turn around faster and keep going.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I mean, like I said, like as he's sprinting, he's like shooting like through himself, like through his back or whatever, trying to hit me, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? So that was new, I guess. I don't know if that's a Steam thing or this version or whatever, but
that's an interesting one, because I was trying to think. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever really seen Metal Gear Solid 1 really ever glitch out on me. Yeah.
It's probably an NVIDIA driver. It's probably literally as simple as something like that. So, it's something just fucked up.
Yeah, something messed up there and so on like that. But
that's a hilarious glitch, though.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny. Well, because that's the thing is, I ended up getting, just right before the podcast, I finished my second round, so I got Snake in his tuxedo, which is always badass. Nice. For a little 007 homage and whatnot. But I went my first round. I actually went with the Otacon ending because I hadn't seen
you
that one in
a while. Fucking homo.
Yeah, I got the gay ending.
So gay, bro.
Especially at the very end when they just like.
It's so gay, dude.
Like Snake and Otacon.
Rewatching down the second one. Oh my gosh. I forgot.
They get on the snowmobile together and they're like, "Man, I'm just looking forward to living, man." And Otacon's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be really good."
You can move on after loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know, Otacon.
Since both our women died, I think it's best we just go on without them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a sense, if you think about it, you killed all of them anyways. You put Meryl in danger. You gave up. You know, literally 2 seconds into torture, you're like, whoa, I don't do torture. That's fucking.
Yeah. Hold up.
Oh, I select. No. Get me off of this thing.
Okay.
There's like one zap in.
Campbell, I didn't sign up for this.
So the very first time so in that scene or whatever, you're jamming on triangle, right? Trying to, like keep your life bar up or whatever. The very first time that I realized that there was an alternate ending, like I was sitting there jamming. I'm young, at this point, jamming on that triangle button, and my left finger slips, and I hit select on accident, and I see that he gives up, and then there's like a whole new scene that plays and whatnot, not really understanding, and then getting to the end of the game, and I remember because I've beaten the game multiple times at this point, knowing the Meryl ending, seeing Meryl like die at the end or whatever, and then you escape out with Otacon. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what the, but a finger slip is how I figured that one out, back in like 2001, whenever. So,
well, funny things too, like, so if you don't save up to torture and you die during torture, it goes all the way back to the beginning.
Yep. That's why I always try to. I always try to do that thing where I always call Mei Ling literally right after that Sniper Wolf battle. Just like, no, save this shit real quick. Because I have messed up on that before. Because sometimes all that Mario Party training, you might just have an off day. And
Lets you down.
You can't get that tapping going. And one thing I have always wondered, how Ocelot brings up, he's like, hey, if you use a turbo controller, I'm going to fucking know. Like, has anybody tried that?
No,
I haven't.
I never had a turbo control. I assume that it automatically just ends. Like he probably you either give up or you just, it's game over. I would assume, but no, I've never actually tried it.
If I had to guess how the game knows it, is that if there's probably like a tap speed, and if it goes above a certain level, they're like, okay, that's not humanly possible.
Yep.
Early
anti-cheat.
Yeah, because I thought I'm like on one of my Switch controls, I'm like does this thing might have a turbo function on it, because some of those ones they got so many different options on there. But I was like, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I just wanted to see if there was like what the cutscene was or any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But by that point, it's like a turbo controller is it's not that you can't have them for PlayStation, but they weren't as common by then. Because, mostly a turbo controller was made for pretty much playing things like aerial fighters and so on like that. So because you didn't want to just sit there and tap for the next 9 levels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I love the scene leading up to this torture scene too. When you're in the holding cell and fucking Johnny's walking around out there or whatever, and like, you can just sit there and just like shadow box or whatever, and he just nonstop just shut up in there, will ya? Shut up in there, will ya? Like over and over and over.
Right.
Until Otacon comes with the fucking ketchup bottle.
I love when you hide underneath the bed and he's like, what are you doing under there?
Yeah.
Have you ever got it to like, apparently if you don't figure it out that you're supposed to use that ketchup or call Otacon or any of that kind of stuff, and I think
ninja will break you out.
Yeah, ninja. I've never got that one before, but because I don't know how many times you have to go to that torture thing, but that'd be kind of intense.
Right.
I haven't seen that scene before, but
yeah, at some point Gray Fox comes by and breaks you free instead. Which was, again, that's like the cool thing about Metal Gear Solid. It's like almost like if you can't figure it out one way, well, guess what? There'll be another way in there too. Yeah. In the Psycho Mantis battle, there was one thing I kind of saw, and I was trying to test it out on my second playthrough, but I think there's a couple other things you have to do for it to work. But the normal battle, you going through it, and then to get Psycho Mantis to not be able to read your mind, you switch to controller port 2, and then he can't read you anymore. Well, there's supposed to be a way that people thought, like, well, what if somebody has a broken PlayStation and they have a crapped up, like, player 2 slot or something like that? We got to have it so that they can continue on. So apparently you're supposed to be able to bust the masks inside his room because he doesn't like to see his face. And if you bust the mask, then it works the same way as putting it in the slot 2.
Really?
But I was trying to do it and it wasn't working. But then I read in that little book thing in there, it said that, like, I think what happens is you have to die like a couple times. Like one of those ones where it's like, I can't figure this out. And then you call Campbell and he's like, I got a new idea. If you break the masks in there, it will work. Because I tried it. I tried punching the mask. I tried shooting up the FAMAS. I tried throwing grenades at it. I was trying everything and I couldn't get it there. Like, I'm like, how do these stupid masks blow off? You know what I mean?
I
Right.
had no idea.
I miss not having any games for him to read as well.
Dude, you know
He was
what's
just
cool?
like, your slate is completely clean. And I'm just like, oh.
No, dude, I noticed on the Master Collection, I didn't notice it my first round, but I noticed on the second round, if you go in the option menus, there's a thing that you can go into save data. You can literally add all the Konami games you want in there. So I
really?
put
Oh, damn
Castlevania,
it.
you can put Silent Hill, and you put something. So then you get all the cool things like, so you like Castlevania? You like a lot of Konami games, you know? And he goes through all those things. So it's kind of badass. Because at first I was like, that was my first play. I was like, man, it's kind of a bummer you don't have this. But it's cool that they put that in there. I'm like, oh, that's pretty badass. You know, of course, you can always get all the other ones he has. Like, if you don't save very much, he's like, you're a little bit ballsy. You don't like to, you know, the save. Or if you don't get caught by any traps, he mentions that too.
So this is another
Right.
funny thing about the Steam version. So in most Steam games, if you want to change controller port from 1 to 2, you physically open like the Steam overlay menu, and you go into the controller settings and you physically change it there. And I was trying to figure it out, and it just like wasn't registering a player 2 option for Metal Gear or whatever. Not realizing that there's an in-game menu that you just,
Right.
you just hit both the trigger buttons or whatever, you know, and it pops up a menu. I was like, Jesus Christ, that took me a minute to figure out too. So,
Dude, don't feel bad. I was doing the same thing on my PlayStation 4. I was like, do I grab another controller?
You plug into
Do
a
I,
different.
do I put a USB port in and then put it into the other one?
Yeah, I thought the same thing too, because I was thinking about that. I'm like, what do we do? And then when that scene came up, I was like, well, because I knew that menu was there because I sat there and dicked with the menu for like the beginning when I was trying to figure out which version I was going to play. And then I was like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be something in that control thing. I'm like, oh, lo and behold, there it was, you know.
yeah, and I remember this that the Mantis fight in particular, like going back to my 9-year-old self on first playthrough, like it was the first game that I played that like broke fourth wall, you know, and whatnot, and like you said, like reading the memory card or like, you know, like place your controller on the ground, I'm gonna move it with my mind and blah blah blah, you know, and, like being like freaked out by that, you know, like what is going on. But yeah, Kojima's just like he's just such a master at stuff like that, and you see that throughout all of his games, you know, like throughout time and whatnot too. It's like a lot of this like fourth wall breaking stuff. Death Stranding has a lot of that too. So, but
that was my favorite part of Death Stranding. All the weird shit you can make Daryl Dixon do.
Yep.
And it's like, this is just for my entertainment. Thanks, Kojima.
Yeah. You say you're in Chug Monsters, branded. You know?
Right.
Stupid.
Well, yeah, it's just the thing. It's just also like I even went through and I found like somebody had put, you know, the entire listing of all the codec calls together, which was like 4 hours and 10 minutes for just Metal Gear 1. And just listening to that throughout the day, and I was like, wow, you know, there's so many of these ones that I've never heard before, and all the times I played, and just how many times it's like, you know, you have to almost like with every single item and every single location you're at and so on like that, you can call just different people, or by interacting with one person and then you call another person, you might get a different kind of voice message and so on like that, which is just, it's so cool how many of those ones there are.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like the Natasha calls in particular, like talking about weapons and things like that. You know, as you're moving through area to area, I think she's a super cool character.
Yeah, I think she's my
all
favorite.
her Doom talk where you're like, this is today's world right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she starts going on. If a small poor country happens to get a hold of a nuclear weapon,
Yep.
There are over 500 Russian scientists that are missing. We're like, oh no.
God.
I just love also too just like the hardcore details she goes into, like whenever you call her about stuff. I mean, even when you call her about the cardboard box, she tells you the history of cardboard throughout the world. I'm like, that's so cool.
Right.
This is one thing about Kojima's writing is just like overstating way too many things, you know. Really making sure that you're going to understand it. So,
you know, or it's kind of like the Master Miller ones too, because there's a bunch of those ones that are really neat. Which all I think about is like, Liquid Snake has a lot of free time on his hand, and with, you know, this whole terrorist. Like,
Right.
hey guys, you got this covered, right? I got to talk to my brother and make him feel that he. Make him believe
He's like on the call. He's on a call with the Pentagon, like, I'm going to fucking nuke you. And then, you know, the codec starts ringing. He's like, hold on 1 second. Puts his sunglasses on. Those are Alaskan field mice.
They don't have a thick layer of fat, but they burrow underground to stay warm all year long.
Yep.
Right.
Liquid, how do you have all this weird, odd, like, trivia and factoids?
Right. Dude, I will say, every single time Gray Fox's death hits me hard. As fucking gay as that is to say, but I'm just like, damn it. Like that storytelling from, all the way on from, from Metal Gear 1, adding in Naomi, and then like finally his death, where he just like lays it all out there. I remember being a kid just being like, oh fuck, like he orphaned her and then he raised her in his like crazy mercenary village. This is some bullshit, dude. This is crazy.
Well, that's the thing that makes Metal Gear Solid, especially for that time period too. It's just like really how intense the story is, in like
very intense.
In a sense, you would say like the adult themes that are like extremely prevalent throughout the game, and just the fact, it's like, he murdered this girl's family, and the whole point was he was supposed to kill her, but he couldn't because he was too young to be able to do this, so he's like, fuck it,
right.
I'll take you in. And that scene where he goes and he's talking about, he's like, and then she started becoming attached, and she would call me her brother, and every single time I looked in her eyes, I saw her parents' eyes, the ones that I took away from her.
Yeah. Every time I looked into her eyes, I saw her parents staring back at me. That voice actor's a fucking gangster, dude.
I love that guy's voice. Is so cool.
Gray Fox is iconic.
He's so
Hurt me more, Snake.
I remember that punch.
Just like old times. And like, I love how nonchalantly Snake's just like, yeah, we had a fist fight in a minefield. Like, oh, okay. No big deal.
Yeah, what? You never done one of those before? Which that scene actually in Metal Gear 2, the original one, is pretty badass, where you have to fight Gray Fox in a minefield. Because it is literally a minefield, and you're fighting him there, punching him and so on like that.
Well, and that's what makes those games so worth going back to, because you get to see Gray Fox when he's a prisoner in the very first one. And he's kind of like the tutorial person for Snake. Like giving you little tips and hints and how to be better at the game. Yeah, and then he's the enemy in Metal Gear 2, and it's devastating. It's a great piece of storytelling. And then Metal Gear Solid brings it all home.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones. It's such a cool thing. And granted, I guess we had to see it going backwards, because nobody had the MSX2 one till like, either, unless you had a nice MSX emulator at some point, but not really until the Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence or whatever had that in there. But
and then Kojima's like, don't worry, because we're going to see everything backwards now after Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, we're going to really start Tarantinoing this thing, But no, everything about Gray Fox, I think, is actually really badass. I love all his scenes. I love all his dialogue and so on like that. It's cool that like in the VR missions, you can even play as him once you like get farther along in there.
Right. And the cutscene when he storms through all the guards in Twin Snakes.
Yeah, it's cool because Twin Snakes you get to see it like in the first one you just get to see, or the original version you get to see just the carnage like post there, which is still pretty badass and brutal because you're just like, oh shit, what just happened here, before you even really know. I mean, I guess you might have an idea because he did appear before and sliced off Ocelot's hand.
Right, absolute brutality. Which is also why Metal Gear Solid Revengeance is such a great game. Yeah, we finally get to play with like a Gray Fox style character.
Yep, because you get a little bit of a taste of that in Metal Gear Solid 2 at the very end, while Raiden gets the sword, But Revengeance really gives that full experience of like if you had the which actually be kind of cool is to have a Gray Fox game where like you played as him maybe before Metal Gear Solid 1.
Right, like him escaping and killing Dr. whoever in the lab.
You know who that doctor ends up being? I didn't know this, but I read about that in that little booklet thing. That's fucking the chick from Metal Gear Solid 3 that you save with. What's her name? Cameron, who's the girl?
Eva.
Not Eva. The girl that's pretty much your mailing in Metal Gear Solid 3, who tells you all about all the movies.
Oh, paramedic.
Yeah, paramedic. So that's the doctor.
Is it really?
Yeah, I did not know, or if I did, I just didn't really remember it. But I was reading that.
Paramedic got into some dark shit after MGS3.
So yeah, Paramedic starts off as this girl who's like got way too much free time on her hands. She's always watching movies, trying to tell Big Boss about it, and Big Boss is like, "Cool, I'm in jungle warfare right now. I'm eating this snake while it's still alive. Yeah, sure, I'll see Godzilla when I get back."
There's a fucking guy who controls bees. You're telling me about Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, exactly. Well, then it's like she's like, well, I guess I'm done with movies. I'm gonna get into cloning. I'm gonna fucking clone Big Boss here now. I'm gonna make Liquid and Snake and Solidus, and then she literally goes and takes Gray Fox's body from Metal Gear 2 and resurrects it back to life, and then Gray Fox ends up killing her. I was like, I learned a lot of shit in that one 2-page panel that they had on her.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting. But just even, all those really extreme moments in the game. Because I was even when I just played through it again and I finished the Meryl ending. And the interesting thing is even though it just kind of implies it that you might not notice it right off the bat, but the fact that when Meryl's kind of you get her and she's alive and she's like, I went through torture, but I also went through something way worse too. And you're like, oh shit,
right.
She was just brutally raped as well too, and just all that kind of stuff that once again, you think about it as being a 10-year-old kid just sitting there oh, we're in some deep fucking shit here.
Right.
It's
it also makes you going further on from there, which I didn't pick up on that till I was much older.
Yeah,
I was just
what
else did they do?
Well, what's worse than torture, man?
Or I didn't even think about it. I was just yeah, I just fucking kicked your ass, Liquid, you fucking pussy.
Yeah. Fucking run away. That Liquid battle though, sometimes that's the only one in the original Metal Gear that can be a pain in the ass every once in a while. It's just sometimes if I'm just off my game. And all it takes is just messing up a couple times, punching him there, and then he just gets the upper hand, and then you're fucked.
Yep.
Then you run out of time. I had to try. I think I beat it on my third try, and I was like, "Get it together," because I just kept being right outside his hitbox, and I'd start my combo, and then he would knock me down.
Yeah, well, that happens to me too. Or you go to throw a punch, and then he just runs by it, and you're like, "Fuck!" Now I'm kind of stuck here throwing punches, and he's gonna spin around me. And that's always the part that, I will say, if you play this game on a harder difficulty, that's the one part that I always go, it gets really fucking intense there. Because then it's if you miss any of your punches, he does way too much damage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remembered the technique on the third time, because you don't throw kicks. You just go punch, 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 and you'll do the 3-punch combo. And if he moves and starts to set up to charge you, you throw him, because you can't choke him. He'll just do a toss. And he'll get up, and you run back over, and you do the 3-punch combo again. And try not to throw him off the edge, because it does no damage. It just eats up a fuck ton of time.
Yep.
Yeah. I forgot you could throw him. God, I went through both those rounds not throwing him one time.
Yeah, I didn't this time either. I just exactly what you were just saying, Josh, the 3-punch combo thing, and then he would line up for his bullhead charge rush thing or whatever, and I would just run up, and he would just miss, and then run back over to him, pop, 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 run back to the center, wait, does his charge thing, run up, dodge, it was I didn't have any problems with this part, but the problem that I did have though is in the Metal Gear fight directly before it. So it's got its machine guns, it has its laser, and then it has its rockets. Machine gun and laser are easy enough to manage, but those fucking rockets, if you're not spaced properly far enough
right
away, but if you're too close and you get lasered, if you're too far away you get rocketed or whatever. Basically, the way that I did it this time, because I kept getting hit by at least the first rocket, is stayed right in between that space of the laser to the rockets, basically where those two trigger points are or whatever, basically stayed right in that space. And every time he would I would bait the rocket launcher or the rockets to fire off or whatever, and then run towards him and then just pull out your stinger and just just shoot him from there.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of times for me is
that's what I did too. You got to be in that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get in that sweet spot, and then I would always chuck a chafe grenade every 2 shots of the stinger. Because then at least it just makes his accuracy kind of crap.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Dude, the high D fight when you have the bandana is so funny. Because it's until he goes far out, you just stay close. put yourself out in danger. Just keep an eye on your health bar and use rations as needed, and just spam fucking stinger missiles into the helicopter from point blank.
Yep.
That you just don't nonstop and so on like that. That's the other thing sometimes that gets me in this game though, is because I kind of forget how much damage some shit does. And every once in a while, like you think you have your rations equipped, and then you sure as hell realize that you did not have them one bit when Snake dies from like he gets hit by like sometimes you get hit by certain things that like literally does half damage, and you're like Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some things in the game where it's like I would get killed and be like, oh, I thought I had enough health. Clearly I didn't.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to kill Vulcan Raven?
Ooh, that's a fun one right there. Who wants to go first on that? I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
my ultimate way that I mostly go about it is I've collected a bunch of claymores all game long, and then I would just go out and I put my mine detector on so I don't run into them because I've done that a few times.
Right. Right.
And then I'll just do that thing where I'll just set the pathway, and I think it's after you set down 10 of them, you can't set any more or something like that. There is a cap for some reason, and then once I've set all my claymores, mostly I'm standing on either the left or right side where he can't really get to me anymore, and from there I'll probably just shoot some Nikitas out and just let him get hit by those, and then he'll eventually start running those claymores, and once he gets stuck in there, it's just like boom, 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 there he's dead.
Yep.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I typically just do the chase. I just like I'll put him into like a corner or something to where like I can just jet like around a corner real quick or whatever, and I just use the stinger missile, and just fire that at him once, then reset it just over and over again. Usually works pretty well.
The tried and true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does anybody go for like the complicated stuff of like trying to use C4 or something like that? I always feel like that seemed like more of a pain in the ass.
I think it's funny to like get the final hit with C4 to where like you let him chase you and you just stand there and let him run all the way up and just detonate it.
Yep.
It's always fun.
That's probably cool. Yeah. I just feel like that's
It's like when you can hit Sniper Wolf with the Nikita launcher. It's always kind of fun.
It's like she was not expecting that. Josh, what's your preferred way to take down Vulcan?
I like the Claymores as well. I just think it's hilarious. And because you always have like max Claymores by that point.
Yeah, because you realistically don't use the Claymores. I mean, you can put them up for guards, but you don't have enough time in the day for that.
Yeah.
No, there's no point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's kind of the same thing that Sniper Wolf battle. I just love the fact that you can, it's like, okay, you're expected to use a sniper rifle, but it's like, well, wait a second, can I use the Stinger on her? Oh, it works. And then you can also fire the Nikita at her too, especially if you go and like you stand in that little section where you're kind of blocked,
Right.
You just fire those off over and over.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, those are fun. Yeah, without the bandana, that's like my preferred way to kill her because I just think it's, the most demoralizing for her. I'm not going to have the sniper battle with you. I'm just going to hit you with rockets.
Yeah.
But when you have the bandana, dude, it's so funny. She tries to run back and forth, but you just keep hitting her because it's just a machine gun fire.
Yep.
That is true because if you don't have the bandana, you just blow through that ammo way too fast if you did that.
Yep.
Right.
So that's what happened to me this run. I text Spence like directly after it happened because like I go through that fight and I do it just fine. Like I do the sniper version and whatever with the PSG-1, but I forgot to grab fucking diazepam before then, and that is the most pain in the dick because you're sitting there behind the tree and you're just like, just pop out. My reticle's steady now. Please pop out. And then of course she pops out as soon as you're doing the crazy swing. It just fucking pisses me off.
Yeah.
The worst part too is I'm like, Snake's laying on the ground. It's not like he's standing up.
Yep.
Right. Right.
It's funny because Cameron mentioned that to me in my second playthrough. I had one of those left, and I took it, and then of course I had to finish the battle off with the and I already blew through my Stinger missiles. I didn't pick up enough of them post hind, so I literally had to beat her with like the shaky cam.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's a struggle.
Yeah.
Well, that was something else that we that I got to test on the second run too. So Spence and I were curious. Can you grab that PSG-1 prior to going through the wolf field and like entering?
Yeah, I won't let you.
Nope. Which stops you.
Which is dumb because you have the level 5 key card at that point, and that like because he hit me up about that, and I was like, actually I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if you can or not. And finally got to that point. And she's just like, come on, Snake, we need to move forward. It's just like
right.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's not like you could just like slap her and pump, knock her out and be like, I'll be back. Hold on.
Yeah.
Right.
Campbell calls over. Snake, what are you doing?
Yep.
Well, that's one thing that's fun about Metal Gear 2, especially when like when I played it for my buddies in Afghanistan. And it's like each time you get the new key card, you have to go back and pick up the extra gear, the night vision goggles, the thermals, the body armor. And I'm just like running straight there, and they're like, "Where are you going?" And I pick it up, and I just come like beeline back, and they're like, "How'd you know that was there?"
Yep.
Like, we want this, boys.
Yeah,
We got to gear up.
we got to collect it all. I like how there's actually a funny codec one in there too, where I don't know if he's talking to Mei Ling or something like that, but Snake's like, he literally has a thing where he's like, I'm just going through everywhere. Or I think Mei Ling says something about like, you shouldn't be stealing or whatever. She's talking about one of her Chinese proverbs. And Snake just goes, I literally am just going through. I'm picking pockets. I'm grabbing items. I'm just shoving everything in my pockets. Like, I don't even know if I need this, but I'm going to put it in there anyways.
Yep.
Fucking Mei Ling.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because then she says, like, well, Snake, I guess you're stealing things and everything like that. I just go ahead. Like, don't listen to that proverb.
Mm-hmm.
But
she shouldn't talk to Snake about that stuff. I mean, he smuggled in cigarettes in his stomach somehow.
Yep.
I don't even know how that's fucking possible.
yeah, it's because for some reason one of the shots that Naomi gave him, like, took away his stomach acids, and I feel like Snake's mind just like was spinning the gears. Like, wait a second.
Hold on.
It's like one of those ones, like, he's got a full-on sneaking suit, couldn't Campbell just like, here you go, Snake, tuck one of these in your jacket, you know what I mean? Here, have a fanny pack. It's waterproof.
Yep.
We know how you like to
smoke. Where did you get those cigarettes? I stuck them in my ass.
It adds to the flavor.
Yep.
Well, sometimes there's like, speaking of items and so on like that, I was thinking of like what items you kind of use and what items sort of are just there and you just have collected it and now it's just going to be one of the ones you just have to flip past every single time. One that I was thinking about that I pretty much never use. Now I know the place that you can use it at, but I always kind of like, maybe it's just by this point I just don't.
The night vision goggles.
The night vision goggles.
Yeah, they're worthless.
It's all the fact that I always turn my TV up brighter. It's like that thing that like, especially like when video games nowadays, they always do that thing where they're like, okay, to calibrate your like screen, you want to like be able to see this one, partially see this one, and not see this one. I'm always like, no. I want to be able that one on the far right. I want to see that one pretty darn clear. I don't care if the graphics look worse. That's not what it's about. I want to be able to see here. So I always feel like when you get to like the dogs and everything like that, it's like, I mean, it's dark, and I guess if you haven't played it before, it's you can't see those little like light crevices of where you need to crawl through and whatnot. But it's like one of those ones I always feel like I really never need those night vision goggles. That's the only place you could use them at. I don't know where else you would use them at in that game, to tell you the truth.
Once again, this is why you save Meryl first and you get the bandana, because you could just run through spamming stun grenades and it's fucking funny.
Yeah.
The dogs. Well, that's what I always use when I go there too. Just throwing the stun grenade. Like right when you come out of the crawl hole, it's just like throw a stun grenade, throw another stun grenade. And like in a sense, I probably feel like I saved the stun grenades for like two places: the dogs, and then for the stairs.
Yep.
Yeah, stairs, you need them.
Yeah, because if not, it's just a pain in the ass to try to shoot the guys. Or I think Campbell said something like,
Right.
"Oh, you could just flip," or maybe it's Master Miller. You can just flip the guys. I'm like, yeah, right. They're gonna hit me in the face about every single time I go to do that.
Yep.
Right.
I know
You
why
can't
Master
throw 'em,
Miller
like,
told me
over
to
the
do
stairs,
that.
probably.
What'd you say?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you probably could throw them over the stairs, maybe.
Wonder if you can. That'd be interesting.
You could throw them off the elevator. That's always fun. That's my preferred way of handling all the going to Vulcan Raven and the PAL card.
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Chucking them over the edge there.
Right.
Yeah, that glorious PAL card thing. That was it. Okay. I literally, on my second playthrough, I wanted to see how long it took me to go from the start when you enter the Metal Gear Rex room, and then from having to go up, back down to the ramp, and then change all that. It took me 27 minutes, and that includes skipping cutscenes and skipping coding calls.
God.
Yeah,
That's so long.
You know, and I'm not saying I probably wasn't doing it like I was trying to speed run as much as possible, but well, one thing I will say that slowed me down is I had the moment where when Ocelot shoots the card, the PAL key out of your hand, and it falls down on the bottom, I had the super rat that fucking grabs it and starts running back and forth. You know, which I learned actually. It said that in the fucking book thing that says that if you get caught less than 10 times in the game, it goes to that gives you that challenge. Which I never knew that before. I was like, I was wondering, I'm like, is this like because I got the Merrill ending is why it's doing it? And it's like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. Apparently,
Nice.
yeah.
You were being stealthy.
So I was being stealthy, so it punished me.
That's interesting because I had that happen to me too, and I never recalled that ever happening. But I thought that it was triggered off because I couldn't find the fucking key card in the canals. And I like ran every single lane up and down all over the place, couldn't find it, and then eventually like that rat just like pops out of its hole and then it just drops the key card right there, and I was like, is that like just a free pass? Is the game just like, oh, you know, like feeling bad for me at that point, or like what does that mean? You know.
Well, I'm glad I did that to you because, like, I even minus some time off my thing because of how long it took me to get that stupid rat because I had to keep chasing it back and forth. And then I was chasing it, and I'm like, okay, now I know where it's coming out at. I pulled the Stinger missile launcher out. It locked onto it. I fired it, blew that rat up, and got my card back.
See,
Yeah, it was kind of a pain in the ass.
Because I never even noticed it running back and forth. Like I said, like I was just running in the canals back and forth for like a good 5 minutes just trying to find the stupid thing. And then I saw it pop out of the grate and then it drops the key card and then runs back into the grate. And I was like, oh, is that just a freebie? You know, like the game just, you know,
yeah.
Whatever. But,
Well, if you could turn for some reason, you could turn the mine detector on and it shows the mouse in there.
interesting.
So that's how I could see it running back. Because mostly I always thought in that game is just on the left side. I know in Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes, the rat hassles you a bit in that one. But that one's easier because you can first person shoot the rat, so it's not as big of a deal. But I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't remember this kind of happening. I'm like, obviously it goes to show that most of my other playthroughs, I get caught a little bit more often.
Yeah, I didn't get that for either of these playthroughs.
Well, because, you know, speaking of getting seen anyways, the one thing in this game is sometimes you can go up behind the guards and grab them, and they still see you. I've never really been able to figure out exactly what's the rhyme.
You like go too far.
Maybe that's it.
Like when you're trying to get close to them, it's so fucking hard sometimes.
Because it's just like,
You get used to it.
there's just that little space. So if you step a little too far forward, they get you. And yeah, if you're too far back, then you just kind of sit there grabbing air.
Yep.
Well, you know you're doing good, and like you're getting your Metal Gear Solid's like MGS1 PlayStation version skills up when you do the weird shuffler or Snake's like going up to him. Because you're like, I'm gonna get you, and I'm not gonna alert shit. You're gonna fucking die, bitch.
Yeah, here comes the shuffle. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but yeah, that rat thing was a little bit of a hassle. But yeah, it took me 27 minutes though to get the cards all changed over and get back up
crazy.
there. Because I also that's like the only part that like if it's your first time playing it, I guess it kind of adds to it. Of course, you get all the major codec calls at that point because that's when
Right.
Mr. Miller's like, "Yo, Naomi Hunter, that fucking bitch has been lying to you." You know what I mean? Like I checked into it. It's like there's no way her fucking Japanese like grandfather was in like some racist Hoover League.
Right.
Yeah, so he goes through all that, so you get all these big scenes that, like, I feel like, in your first playthrough, you would almost kind of forget that you had to do all this extra work because you're so focused on this, like, oh, shit, there's all these twists and turns. It's just when you've played the game a bunch of times, you kind of go, oh, I gotta ride that goddamn elevator back up.
Yep.
Well, and with those twists and turns, too, you really appreciate how much, like, Liquid is... At least I did this playthrough. How much Liquid is like actually freaking out about Fox Die? Mm-hmm. Because I tried to pay attention to that. Like, how often do they bring that up? Trying to get info out of Snake and trying to get Colonel Campbell to like pony up some sort of info.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing is when you think of it from like this is Liquid, not Master Miller. It's all the ways that he's talking. It's like literally everything is geared towards what he wants, which is really interesting about the writing. And even the stuff like when he's telling weird data and so on like that, it's like he's literally trying to distract Snake and really just trying to hamper the whole mission the whole way through.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah. Yeah,
fucking Master Miller.
Yeah, fucking poor Master Miller. He's just fucking dead, probably naked in his fucking like bungalow in Alaska for 3 days. Nobody fucking has given him a phone call or anything like that.
I also love when Liquid takes off his disguise. You're kind of like, you couldn't figure that out when he was right in front of you.
Undoes the hair and pulls off the glasses.
Well, you know, the weirdest thing I always think about too when it comes to the codec calls, I always go, okay, like us as the gamer, that's what we see, but Snake obviously
he's just hearing their voice.
Yeah, he's just hearing their voices and so on like that. So you know, I think it is one of those kind of things, you know. And even another thing I thought about this when I was playing through the codec calls, and granted this is definitely like, you know, putting this idea in a much later time, but like I always kind of thought it'd be kind of interesting if you could run the codec calls at the simultaneously as you were playing the game. So, like, you know, I was looking at the screen because obviously you have your items on the bottom, but the top right you have your radar. Well, up on the top left, that's where like you just had like a miniature version of that codec. Maybe it was just like a vertical style one. And
for certain calls, yeah.
Yeah, like certain calls you'd have to stop, but for like, you know, especially like the ones where like Colonel Campbell's just like, Snake, you know, crawl across that to not make sound, you know? Yeah. You know, to use the ladder, press the, it's like, Jesus, okay, I'm not that stupid. Yeah. I hate to start saying it like, Campbell, the game's a mature rated game. I don't, if you think I can't figure out how to climb a ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is that weird time period too, because it's like, I will say that like, tutorials in video games is a brand new fucking concept right here. There's only a few games I can think of that do it. There's like another game, Burning Rangers, made by Sega on Sega Saturn, that has a god-awful like 30-minute long like tutorial thing in the beginning of the game. But like, you know, it's like we literally have gone through games where it's just like, what, you didn't read the fucking manual? Like, you'll figure it out. To like, now it's like, oh god, they literally tell you everything like you've never played a game in your life. And sometimes I kind of wonder if because Metal Gear Solid was designed to be like, hey, you know, maybe there's going to be people out there that never normally would have played a game, but if they see how this game's story is and how the characters unfold and everything like that, maybe we can get people kind of hooked in here that would normally never pick up a video game. And I kind of wonder if that was part of its design.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's totally
Speaking of design, you know what drove me crazy that I never noticed it until now? They've edited all the images that were like synonymous with MGS1, where it has Snake pointing his Mark 23 at the camera. They put a big old black circle there on everything with this Master Collection, because you're like literally looking down the barrel of Snake's gun.
Interesting.
Because I found an ad because I was talking about tattoos with somebody. They're like, "Oh, what tattoo would you get?" And I was like, "I'd get Solid Snake, MGS1." Yoji Shinkawa concept art, the one that's like on the cover either was like Snake holding the gun up to the side, or the one where he's like barrel right at the camera and you're staring down the barrel of his gun. They edited that out. It's just a big black hole where the gun is.
Interesting.
Yeah. I guess I didn't notice that. That's because I was kind of wondering, because, you know, we live in an age, too, where nowadays they can kind of tamper with video games. I do like how at the beginning of the Master Collection, though, it says, like, hey, there's some stuff in here that might bother people, but we ain't fucking changing shit, because this is historical, and you got to play it the way God intended. You know? It says it in a little bit more nicer, like, lawyer words, but...
That's like the Modern Warfare 2 remake, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're like, you know, some people might find this offensive, and if you want, you can skip the level. And all I fear is like, I don't trust anybody who is going to play a game like that and skip that fucking level. I don't want to see them near anything violent. In fact, I think they should be rounded up and locked up if they can't handle this, because they, to me, seem like a danger to society. You know.
100%.
Dude, I remember watching like G4, like after that game came out. I think it was like the G4 network. And they're talking about it, and they're like, yeah, on the mission, no Russian, you can just not fire any rounds. And, you know, that's like the best possible ending. And I was like, oh, shit, that's a possibility?
Really? Jesus. Oh, no. God. I kind of went to town there. I don't know. I was fucking like Mr. Blonde all of a sudden.
That's what you're supposed to do?
Yeah. I still have I really give Call of Duty credit though for that level. Like that level is so ridiculously ballsy for a major game. Like that seems like something that should be in like an indie like offshoot side game. And the fact that's like, yeah, you're literally in an airport shooting civilians.
Right. Brutal.
You got no qualms about it. You could go to town on it. There's literally people dragging bodies away and stuff like that. You're like, here, take a grenade, you son of a bitch.
Yep. Yep. Especially
Yeah,
the era
there's
that it came out, because that was like what? That was like '09
Right.
or something like
Yeah.
that. That's wild.
Yeah.
I just remember the first time playing that, I was like, holy shit. And I'm so glad they've kept that in there, because that would bother me if they took it out. Like, no. That is fucking art right there, is that level. Like, don't you dare touch that, you know. But speaking of Metal Gear Solid, though, I'm glad that they don't edit any of that stuff out. Other than that image, obviously, you said, of whatever the heck, or they just changed it around. Or
Well, I just noticed it on like all the Master Collection like imagery, like that has been changed, and it's like all the cover art.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of them use a lot of the Japanese cover art instead of the American one we had. I noticed on a lot of the pictures you see, or like whatever, the Japanese box one. Which I will say, it's actually interesting on that Master Collection how they give you different versions. So you have Metal Gear, like the American one, I guess you would sort of say. Then, of course, you have VR missions. They throw in... the fuck's the... I think there's a European version. I don't know what's exactly different about that one. And then there's the one called the Integral one or whatnot, which... I remember it was like, oh, cool. It mentions something like, oh, there's a first-person mode in there. Of course, you got to beat the fucking game to unlock it, you know. But I almost want to try that out, because that sounds kind of interesting, that you can play through the whole game like in the first-person mode, which means you can have the gun out and everything like that. It'd be
That sounds
see
interesting.
because what that version was in Japan is they released it as like, it was like a special edition that came out in like '99. So it was Metal Gear Solid re-release with some bonus features. It says something about more costumes, so I don't know if there's something more than just the tuxedo. It didn't say like what they were. And then there's a first person mode, and then there's a third disc that came with it, which was just the VR missions, you know, that they sold separately here.
Nice.
But I was like, oh, that's pretty badass. The kind of the bummer was, though, as I noticed in the Master Collection, is your save files were always landlocked to every single thing you did. Because I wanted to try it, because me and Josh were talking about this, about playing the game in Japanese, just to see what the experience was like. And I was going to, on my second round, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to play it in Japanese. That's what I'm going to do. And then it was like, when you go to put the Japanese mode on, it gives you a brand new save file. I'm like, well, I wanted to unlock the tuxedo, so never mind.
Yeah. No, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I wanted to use my stealth camo, and I wanted to unlock the tuxedo. So
Can you do Japanese voice acting with English subs?
no, because you have to. You do the weird thing that you selected at the beginning.
Okay.
You know, like in menu before it, like it's almost like before it loads the disc up. So it's kind of it even says that there, that each one creates its own save file. So
Interesting.
you know, or I don't know, it might be kind of fun to play it in German. They give you all kinds of other stuff. Is there a German voice acting?
Maybe,
It might just be subtitles, but I don't know. I had my Sonic the Hedgehog racing game set to German, and it really made it much more of an experience.
Oh yeah. Yep. Some of my favorite videos I've seen, like I guess like maybe over a year ago now at this point, but the Helldivers game that came out recently or whatever on PlayStation, like if you listen to that game in German and you like look at like some of the like imagery and stuff in that game, it's hilarious, like how Nazism it is, you know, like it's just like it's so similar, dude. It's nuts.
I guess that'd be like watching Starship Troopers with like the German voice acting turned on.
Yep.
Dude, that's like a real thing too. And like as I get older, I see that like Helldivers, and I'm like, hell yeah, brother, let's go.
Yep.
With the Empire, dog.
Yep.
Come on board.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. You know. But yeah, I guess like next time I go to play Metal Gear Solid, I think I'll try that integral thing, since now I know what that is. If I would have known that from the beginning, I would have started with that version. But and I don't know if it changes. It might change some other, because it said like it changes some other things. So I don't know if it might do that thing where it changes some enemy positions. Maybe it's kind of like a Resident Evil director's cut type thing, you know, which could be kind of cool, you know. Because I think it's kind of cool when you do turn the game on like the hard mode and so on like that, because it adds like 3 or 4 like extra guards like every single area.
So I wonder if it has it, the GOG version, because it is the actual proper PC version. I'm curious if there's any like randomizer mods for it or something, you know, that like changes up. Maybe not like you can't change up like core like items that you need, like the Nikita launcher and stuff like that. Like you'd have to keep that the same, but like some of the other stuff, I'd be curious to see if there's like a randomizer for that, like in a mod tool.
Add cameras, add gun cameras and shit.
Well, I did notice that there's a couple features that were different on the PC version. Is one, you could save without talking to Mei Ling. I don't know if like what type of racist thing that was, but
Yeah. I need to hear my proverb.
Yeah, and you could also skip the codec things. You could literally press start, and they would full on skip them, which I thought was kind of cool if you're going to play it through at a fast pace. Because if not, you're sitting there going X X X X X X X X X X X,
right?
Button you're using, you know.
And it's not a later Metal Gear Solid where you just like hit triangle and it just feeds through it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So no, you have to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, like I'm looking at a mod right here, so somebody's modded it for ultra wide. So my aspect ratio of 21:9 and puts reshade on top of it, so it completely retextures the whole game. I'd be curious to check that out.
I did see in GOG, because when I was trying to figure out how to turn the inversion on, and obviously nobody answered that one bit. But I did see a lot of people say, like, there's a lot of great mods that people have put together for this on here. And so I'm like, well, that's cool. You know, that might be kind of fun to mess with and so on.
Maybe you can get a CJ skin from San Andreas.
Yeah, there we go.
Turn Vulcan Raven into fucking Thomas the Tank Engine or something.
Yeah, why not?
Right. Just have him yelling CJ stuff, like when he chokes guards, like, oh shit! Yeah. Give me that paper, dog!
Ah, shit, here we go again. You enter the boss arena.
Yeah. When Metal Gear powers up, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah, so yeah, there's probably all kinds of fun stuff there. You know, one thing else I was thinking too is we talked about this at the very beginning, but we talked about like how cinematic the cutscenes are and everything like that. This is also the other interesting thing, especially since it's this time period, is the fact that there's no pre-rendered cutscenes.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like every game at this point, like that's like the big thing. It's like, oh, you gotta have the pre-rendered. That's what the kids came for. That's why that's what they like about the Final Fantasy, you know, and the Resident Evil and all that stuff. And the fact that this game's like, fuck it, we're not gonna do it. Which one, I actually have a big theory of why they didn't really do it. Is I mean, I know it's like because Kojima wants to have a little bit more control and you don't have to wait for the renders. But two, I feel it's all those codec calls. I think took up all the extra data. No, I think that was one of those ones like, yo, you get one or the other. You ain't getting both.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, because it's all voice acted.
Yeah, because that's you know, that's the biggest thing that takes up like all the, like on a disc, it's like realistically the game is not very much data on any of these things. You know, it's like really if you took the audio out of Metal Gear Solid, you could slap it on an N64 probably no problem whatsoever. It probably would run better and play better and all kinds of stuff too. But it's that audio stuff is what makes like why you need all that disk space, and of course the cutscenes as well too. If you did have pre-rendered ones,
right? And it really is like one of those first early PlayStation games, or just a PS1 game with phenomenal voice acting all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as I said, like I can think of a lot of games that have really good stories beforehand, but they're all reading ones. Whether they be like an RPG, like as in Chrono Trigger, but you could also say even other Hideo Kojima games like Snatcher and things like that. But all those ones you generally I take that back. I think Snatcher does have some voice acting in it now, but I don't think like I want to say it's not the whole way through. I want to say it's just parts of it have voice acting.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Sega CD games that they'll have parts of them that have voice acting in it and so on like that. It's like how Lunar is. Lunar has some voice acting in it, but not the whole way through. But yeah, for the most part, I still can't think. Even like PC wise, I'm trying to think of games. There's games that have cutscenes, of course, in them, but not like these full on that just like here's this like total movie experience,
like rendered in engine and all that. Like I think that it was like just a masterclass like technical showcase of what the PlayStation was capable of at that time, because you have to look at like other narrative type experiences that intermeshed with some other genres. So in my mind, like the first thing that pops in my head is Half-Life. They intermixed a really great story alongside a first-person shooter, and told it through no cutscenes whatsoever. You're in control of Gordon Freeman the entire time, So Metal Gear a little bit different. I mean, you're not controlling Snake during cutscenes, but it is in engine, which is pretty neat for that time era. So.
Yeah, because I remember that was the biggest thing about Half-Life was the fact it's like, yeah, they didn't do cutscenes. It almost feels like that thing is like, hey, wait a second. If we do less, it'll actually be even better, make you feel more immersive into it, and so on like that. And it's like, yeah, where's the camera going to be on this cutscene? Wherever you want to look.
Right. And you can miss so much shit. I mean, I'd probably have experienced everything in Half-Life at this point, being 2025, but like, God knows the amount of times I've played that game and just like, oh, I haven't seen that before because I wasn't looking that way, during the scene, or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. no, there's so much of that kind of cool stuff there, and it's just the same way with Metal Gear. It's like, it's amazing kind of how much stuff there is in there, Granted, it's like one of those ones, like, it's the codec calls are mainly the things that, like, all the extra things and whatnot too, but just even, the other small things of just certain items and so on like that, or just finding like different uses for stuff throughout the game, and how almost kind of like light sandbox kind of gameplay there is throughout it, yeah, it's just one of those things that just stands out so much. And as I said, I was really trying to think of it at the time. I was like, I'm trying to think of something that, like, I can compare this to that's kind of like prior, and of course, post Metal Gear Solid, you get a lot of stuff that kind of catches up with it. You get things like Siphon Filters, one that I feel like kind of feels in a similar vibe as far as like storytelling and trying to make it feel, definitely grounded and serious and so on like that, and Fear Effect and things like that. But yeah, even just once again before this, it's like I had a hard time trying to think exactly what might have been before this that was literally as groundbreaking, as far as the storytelling.
I don't think there is. I really don't.
No,
right.
Final Fantasy VII, but like it's in a different way, Of course, that's like one of those games that fits in like right, both Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid kind of being back to back is one of those ones where there's a lot of shit kind of going on in those games where you're like, oh man, these games make you think, and so on like that. And you have these experiences, and for once again, for a certain generation, if it hits you at that right age, especially, that becomes like one of your definitive growing up games.
Right.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
But yeah, Metal Gear Solid though is just, there's something about it. It's just so much fun. Every character I just love. Like, what I was gonna say, it's like, what's one of your favorite characters out of the whole groups? Beyond maybe Solid Snake, like some of the side characters and so on.
Like only for MGS1?
Yeah, only MGS1.
I think my favorite character from MGS1, at least storyline and like backstory, is Sniper Wolf.
Yep.
Because especially now, dude, like, so when I was a kid, and she was like, I was a Kurd. And I was like, what the fuck's a Kurd? And I never looked it up. I was just like, I don't know what the fuck a Kurd is. Like, she looks white, must be in Europe. And then now that I'm like older and I know like the Kurdish people, everything they dealt with, I'm just like, God damn. Like, she was in the middle of like a nasty spot.
Yep.
Yeah, just that I was born on the battlefield and all that stuff too.
Well, yeah, and how it ties in with Big Boss, because he was stomping around that territory during that time.
Well, and that's the thing, is the layers of Metal Gear, and the farther you kind of get into it, and just the more you know in real life, and the more you just know from Metal Gear. Like, I feel like I read through that little booklet thing, and I felt like I learned a couple new things that I never knew about Metal Gear, no matter how many times I've played through all the games, and so on like that. The one character that I think myself that I mean, Mei Ling's always been my kind of go-to. There's something special about Mei Ling, but is Natasha. She's one of those ones.
Right.
That, like, I think that character's really cool, and I went through that book that like I sent you guys. I found somebody who did a read through of, and they actually did a really fucking good job. But I can't remember. It came out with like Metal Gear Solid 2, and it was kind of like giving like a catch up of Metal Gear, but all from her perspective and so on like that. And then of course it adds just a little bit of her history, which you do get that if you talk to her enough in Metal Gear after the codec. She finally tells you that, like, oh yeah, I was fucking born in Ukraine and whatnot like that, and my parents literally had to clean up Chernobyl, and they died like 6 months later, and she goes through all this stuff and why she's so anti-nuclear, and that's kind of like one of the main reasons she's on here, is she's the nuclear specialist, and she's gonna give you all that information, but she's pretty much giving you a forewarning of nuclear power and what to do with it.
Yeah.
She gives you a social studies, like, history lesson.
Yep. I think for me, it's so hard. All the characters are so good. I really like, I like Naomi Hunter a lot. I like her character arc. I like how she progresses throughout the totality of this game into Metal Gear Solid 4. To the point, I mean, I named my fucking daughter after her. Like, my daughter's name is literally Naomi Rose for, Naomi Hunter and Rose Thompson from Ogre 2, So
that's hilarious.
Naomi
that's
probably has
awesome.
Yeah.
If you think the character that probably has like the most interesting arc, I think Naomi does in Metal Gear.
Yeah. She is interesting. Rose too, because through that entire playthrough of MGS2, like, goddamn, playing Metal Gear Solid 1 makes me want to play 2. Just be, for all the funny codex calls, dude, just Colonel Campbell. I want some of that in my life. I'm going to have to watch some videos after this.
Yep.
Well, dude, I found that guy who put together all the codec calls for Metal Gear 1, he literally had them for all the other Metal Gears, and I saved them all. I'm like, here's what I'm doing when I'm going to be walking around at work. I'll just be listening to codec calls.
When you get to Virus Colonel Campbell, it's going to be so fun.
Well, one of the funniest ones was because it gets to a certain point, you get past all like the story codex, and then you just kind of get all the random ass ones. And there was all just the ones of Mei Ling going like snake, 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 and it was just over and over. Like if you were just driving in your car and that was just blaring, you'd be like, the fuck is that guy listening to?
Yep.
Right.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, there's so many of those and so on like that. But no, Naomi has like a lot of cool stuff in that game, just her whole origin and how she's literally on this revenge spree against Solid Snake, and she's been building up to it for like 2 years. It's been all she's thinking about, and in the process she realizes like, oh wait a second, he is completely different than I thought he was this whole time. I thought she was the guy who killed my benefactor of Big Boss, killed my fake brother in a sense, Frank Yeager. And especially when like I love when Snake has that thing where somebody's like, yeah, he's like, I had a real good friend once. You know what I mean? We had a fight on a battlefield in the mines there. And she's like, well, who was it? It was Frank Yeager. She's like, you pretty much killed him his whole life. He's like, yeah, still my buddy. You know what I mean? Like best of friends. Just because we're on the battlefield doesn't mean we're not friends. Yeah, just business.
We still have a beer after work, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
We're both just doing our jobs.
Yeah, on opposite sides. That's it.
His job was to be a terrorist, and mine was to stop him.
Yeah, but just all the stuff she goes through, and the fact that she gets, of course, arrested, and the fact that you can see that Liquid Snake is really like putting the pressure on her as Master Miller and so on like that, and almost probably the guy who like causes all that to kind of go down more than anything, because he knows that she is the one kind of jacking all this stuff up, and infecting Snake, who's gonna go around and kill everybody else with his fox dye.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, in her cold ass line where Snake's like, how much time do I have left, Naomi? And she's like, don't know. Whatever.
However long you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, what?
Just live, Snake. Just live.
It gives you that old speech at the very end and so on like that. Be like, yeah, I would love to just live, but somebody had to just shoot me up before talking to me and asking those hard questions. Could have got the real story beforehand.
No, she is a cool character, especially in MGS4, man. And
yeah,
that's like the last one I have because I'm skipping Peace Walker. I'm gonna be a pussy and I'm not gonna beat it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to 4.
It sounds weird, but Peace Walker is the one like I've never played it this way. But what you really need to do is play it co-op. I think because that's how that game was designed. It wasn't meant to be played by itself or by yourself.
Right.
Because that's the thing is the game's fine, and then all of a sudden it's like the difficulty just starts to ramp up all of a sudden, and you get to some missions, you're like, Jesus.
That and I played so much of that because I had it on PSP, and that was like I think I bought a PSP just for that game. I think I had that and Parasite Eve. And that was it.
Those are good ones.
Yep. Well, Spencer and I were speculating on so we have Master Collection 1 now at this point. What Master Collection 2 is actually going to be. In my opinion, I think it's going to be Peace Walker, it's going to be Metal Gear Solid 4, and probably the definitive edition of Metal Gear Solid 5 with Ground Zeroes, everything included. The smaller games, because Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 exist in Collection 1. Again, like Spence and I were kind of theorizing about that. Like, what if they added like Metal Gear Acid or Portable Ops or like any of those? It
would make sense, right?
Yeah, see, because I think they should, because that there's one game that I think that's kind of weird that it's missing from the first collection, and I know it probably seems like an oddball one, but it's just like it doesn't seem like it's that hard to throw on there. Is the Metal Gear Solid, the Game Boy Color game, because it's its own original story, and it's got a lot of features in there that actually predate some of the later day Metal Gear games. But for some reason that was not on there, because it's like, and the only reason I say that is because they put on the NES one and Snake's Revenge, which I think is badass that those actually are on there. But it would have been kind of cool just to have that too. But I'm thinking that like on that next collection, because it even mentions it in that book. Once again, going back to that booklet that's on there, it mentions the Game Boy Color one on there and tells you the backstory of it. So obviously, it's not like doesn't act like it doesn't exist. It's there, and it mentions Acid 1 and 2 and Portable Ops. It'd be kind of cool to see all those on there, and I could
and Revengeance. Throw that in there too.
Revengeance, there you go.
Well, see, and that I was gonna say is like because Metal Gear Solid 5, because that game you literally just buy it right now. Like they kind of have in a sense like the close to the definitive edition you can pick up on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, yada yada yada. I'm almost kind of guessing that one may or may not be in the collection. You could see them kind of not putting it in there and just having it being this one being like, yeah, almost even 4, Revengeance, and Peace Walker. And then the bonus games are Acids, Portable Ops, and the Game Boy Color one, you know?
Right.
I think more so than anything,
that makes sense.
what I am most excited for is that because they can't launch a collection 2 without Metal Gear Solid 4. They just can't do it. And if they do it, then really fuck Konami. But for that game to finally exist on
wait for Volume 3.
Exactly, you know?
Yeah, Volume 2 is just Metal Gear Acid. 1, 2, Portable Ops. It's like all the ones.
All the portable games.
Catch Volume 3 on PlayStation 6.
Yeah.
But I am so excited to, whenever it comes out, I'm so excited to finally play Metal Gear Solid 4 on something that isn't 720p and like 20 frames a second. I'm so excited for that to actually be upgraded.
Because it's such a good game.
It deserves it. Very much looking forward to that. So,
well, because it's weird because it's one of the few like ginormous games that's still kind of landlocked after almost 20 years, even. You know, I guess it hasn't been that long, but close to it.
2008, almost.
Yeah, 2008, yeah. So it's getting there, and it's just,
that game blew my mind when it came out.
Yeah, well, it's so good, and the fact it's just like the more that you know about Metal Gear and how much that all comes together, I really would like to go back and play it right now. But I have that weird thing that's like, should I just wait? Is it how long is that collection going to be? It could be around the corner faster than you think, It could be, because sometimes, I don't know, that happened to me too many times in life that I finally go, I'm going to go back and play this game. And then I go and I play all the way through it. And then it's like, Definitive Edition coming out in 2 months from now. And you're like, cool. Yeah. I did that with Chrono Cross, and I beat it on PlayStation, went through the whole thing and everything like that. And then it was like 3 months later that version came, like the new version came out.
That's a journey too.
Yeah, that is a journey. I didn't think that game was as long. That game's longer than a Final Fantasy game.
Because you used the strategy guide and made sure that you got all the best characters and did the grinding path the correct way.
There you go.
Yes, I did the majority of it because that game was like 45 hours long. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, dude.
It's like the 2 discs. I was like, it'll be like Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger's like a 20-hour game. That's probably what there's like. Oh no, because I never sat down and played the entire distance of that. And then lo and behold, and then the new version's like, you can play the speed up thing right off the bat and all that kind of stuff. Like, that'd be kind of nice. It's okay, whatever.
Oh, son of a bitch.
The same thing happened to me at Final Fantasy 12. I finally sat down. I'm like, I've never played Final Fantasy 12. I'm gonna finally sit down and play through it. Play through the whole thing on PS2. 3 months later, the remaster version comes out. Of course it does.
Yep.
So I almost have that feeling that Metal Gear Solid 4 is going to be like that too. I'm going to sit down and play it,
I hope.
But at the same time, I go, God, if it's not going to come out for like a year or two, maybe I should just pull the PS3 out and give it another go.
I think we're looking at a year, honestly, because if they were to have done it, they probably would have launched it directly before this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake coming out in like
and they're going to milk that bitch.
Yeah. So if I were to guess, probably Q1 or maybe Q2 next year is maybe when that'll come out.
That's what I'm thinking because, with one of these collections, it's like, they'll mostly come out pretty close to. I'll use like that once again. I'll use that Tomb Raider collection as an example. It was only a year apart from like the Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 to 4, 5, and 6. So it probably wouldn't be out of the question for that Metal Gear Solid one to be not that far off.
Yeah, well, it'll be 2 years, and I think October is when this collection came out or something. So
it
was the tail end of 23 is when it came out, and so
Dude,
hopefully it does.
Or October.
That happened to me with Mass Effect. I went through and played my Mass Effect collection on PlayStation 3, and then the Legendary came out, and I was like, well, I gotta see the Milky Way and with some lipstick on it. Let's go.
Get all them trophies, man.
I gotta see Commander Shepard dance in higher frame.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, because it's just one of those ones, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I did almost have kind of the hankering to pull out the PS3 and go through Metal Gear 4 because that's the one at this moment. That's the one that's been the longest since I've last played.
Yeah,
you
same.
know, because I played 3 not too long ago, and then I played 2 when the collection first came out. So
Yeah.
I feel like I've been pretty caught up on the other ones, at least in just recent times. But so that, or I'm gonna go play the Game Boy Color one. all games. I had this weird like, maybe it's either 4 or the Game Boy Color one. I've never beat the Game Boy Color one, so maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Finally see that story, and goes the whole distance.
Yeah.
But
4 is the last one I have to beat because I recently played through all of them, minus Twin Snakes.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, yeah, Twin Snakes. You technically,
Dude. 5 drives me crazy. So there's moments where I'm playing it and I'm like, this is one of the greatest games ever made. I can do so much. Like as I progress and get better and better, like I am a one-man death machine, silent army of just, there's nothing that could stop me. You got to bring all the virus guys out and then I'm going to schwack them.
Yep.
But that game fucking sucks in the story department. Like it is so bad.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing. The game plays amazing. That's the thing. Is it plays almost too good. That's the bad part about it.
No, it's just blatantly apparent the game was not finished in its development. I still don't know to this day. I assume eventually we're gonna get the full story of what the fuck happened between Kojima and Konami in 2014 into 2015. Directly before the launch of Metal Gear Solid 5. If you remember that time period, they removed his name out of the fucking game.
Right.
Like that was some bad blood, dude. For them to not allow him to go to Games Fest, to go accept his reward and shit like that, that's bad. But at the same time, I mean, look at what we got out of it. We got Death Stranding. We got Kojima Unleashed, essentially, so.
Yeah, they were giving him Mel Gibson treatment. It's what they were doing to Kojima. They were like hiding him practically.
You want to scan feet? Dude, come on.
Yeah.
You can scan all the feet for Death Stranding, too.
Yep.
Well, and this is the weird thing about it, though, is like a lot of times, like, information from Japanese companies, though, like, they, like, never release that stuff. Because even, like, this day and age, it's like, good luck finding any, like, there's very little history that you can find just on games back in the day. Like, just like even like what Kojima did with Metal Gear Solid 1 or what the original Resident Evil and Final Fantasies and all that stuff. It's like they just don't like, I don't know why they don't like to tell that stuff,
Right.
Where, you would love to just be like, hey, it'd be cool if Kojima just put together like a cool book of like his like an autobiography, and then it just goes through all the games he made and how he got to where he did. Or Shigeru Miyamoto, like, I hate to sort of say it, but Shigeru Miyamoto's getting pretty darn old. It'd be nice if he could like write all that stuff down and at least
give us a memoir.
Yeah, give us this cool 800-page memoir of like, the master of video games in a sense, But like for some reason, Japan just kind of, they just don't like that. I don't know. It's like they don't like to let you see behind the curtain type stuff.
Yeah.
Individuals working on Delta, I saw things where they were talking really kindly about Kojima and like even leaving the door open in a way. Like I would love to work with Kojima in the future, but it's not like the president of Konami. It's just some fucking like asshole working on Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, and I saw. It must have been a tweet from earlier or something like that. I need to actually find it on his page itself. But I guess Kojima like kind of softly said today that he's got that OD game coming, and then there's one other title that he's working on, and that he wants to move on to like movies essentially after that. Like he's kind of done with video games. And no, please, we need you. Please. But
well, the funny thing is, it's like I know that's what he's wanted to do his entire life. He's like,
right. Well, you can see it. It's infected all his work. Like just everything we were saying about MGS1. It's like inspired by Hollywood. All of them are. Like the scene where Snake drops down onto the boat in MGS2, and he's got the lightning all around him, straight out of like Terminator.
Yep.
Well, for a fact that like Kojima probably got so pissed when he saw Tarantino movies come out. It's like that's what I wanted to fucking do. I've been wanting to do that since before this guy was even doing anything. I was doing it in the '80s and I was trying to work my way up. And
him even being an asshole, man, and being like Metal Gear Solid movie, like here's Oscar Isaac, polished up to look like Solid Snake. That's who I would pick.
Yep.
And you're just like, shut up, Kojima. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You're getting me all excited.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. One of those things there. But I don't know. It could be kind of cool. As I said, he's done so many games, throughout the past. I mean, there's still even games like I've always wanted to play. The other one is the posters on the wall in Metal Gear Solid. Police
Knots.
Police Knots. Because once again, you couldn't play that back in the day, but there's a translated version of it out there now, and I would love to give that one, a go and just see all the stuff in there and whatnot there. And same with Snatcher, because I've played Snatcher, but I've never beat Snatcher, so it'd be kind of fun to go all the way through that one, and yeah, there's
and go watch Wild Geese so you can see.
Yeah, you go see Wild Geese, the movie that inspired Metal Gear Solid, and got Roger Moore.
Don't watch it. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. It's very British.
We did a podcast on it, and Spence told me, he's like, yeah, so this is what inspired Kojima for like the original Metal Gear. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait. And it's like, there's like a medic with him who's super gay. And he's like, oh my gosh, you need a Band-Aid? And like, they're stopping in the middle of firefights like, oh, it's tea time.
Oh, God. That's hilarious.
It does have Roger Moore, though. He's got a big old stogie, and he's blasting people, though. So he's pretty much...
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He's pretty much like the Solid Snake in that movie, so...
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
There's a Wild Geese, too, as well.
I just... Going back and replaying through this again, though, man, like, it cements it in my mind. This is absolutely my favorite game franchise of all time. Like, there's a lot of really good games out there, but this is my OG. Like if I think about when I think of the words video games and favorite, like this easily, every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's the thing that it's the thing is like the experience. I can't think of too many other games out. I can think of games that have a really good experience, but like this is literally easily on like for sure my top 5 best experiences in any game, kind of out there. Of course, I would say stuff like Final Fantasy 7 and 8 also fit in about that similar category too.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the whole thing of going through this and just, and the same with Metal Gear 2, 3, and 4 as well too. But like just like what you take out of all these games throughout the whole playthrough and so on like that. It's just it's just so good.
Well, it's impossible for me to pick any one of these games. I very much agree with you, though, Josh. Metal Gear Solid 5 story is just like it's a story that did not need to be told. But
right,
yeah,
beyond that,
I don't think there's too many people out there being like, what's the best Metal Gear? 5.
Yeah, 5.
Right.
And then Acid 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But when I refer to this being my OG, I'm referring to the totality of the franchise. Like there's nothing better out there in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's literally it's like
as far as storytelling.
Yeah, no, I don't think anything compares. There's a lot of games that if I think it's just like gameplay wise and so on like that I like a lot that are. In similar calibers, but just when it gets to that story part and the whole, everything you go through and whatnot. I mean, even to the point where it's like, I got the old Metal Gear Solid novelization thing too, just to kind of go along with it too, because why not have more?
Right. Well, and it's crazy too for the type of game it is, with such a dense amount of lore that you have to memorize.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's like on par with like a Star Wars or like. Maybe not so much a Warhammer because that goes like full retard. Metal Gear doesn't get anywhere closer, but it's like similar to where there's just like this massive amount of lore that knowing it benefits you more as the gamer and like the enjoyment factor of it, but not necessary to enjoy any of the products.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a weird one too because it's also. Not only does it have all this cool lore and so on like that, but since it ties into history and sort of teaches you history and, science and all that stuff at the same time, you feel like you're getting more educated and more like, deeply surrounded the world. It gives you philosophy. It gives you literally a full college education in these Metal Gear Solid games.
Yep.
Right.
Spanning through all kinds of stuff, even tells you like your dilemmas of like, you can't just go around shooting all day long in your video game system. You're like, oh, well, why not?
Yeah, why not?
I'm here.
Right.
You're not my mom. Stop.
Don't fourth wall break this, but Yeah, no, it really is, because it's like, I think of my favorite franchises, which is like Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, Castlevania, trying to think of something else, Command and Conquer or something like that. But yeah, nothing at the same time is really that same definitiveness of like that Metal Gear story, if anything like that, you know. There's a lot of other cool stuff out there, but just, oh god, yeah, and especially in number one. Number one's, it's like, you know, between this or Twin Snakes, it's like, I just love this whole everything from beginning to end, just everything about it. Like, it's so good. There's some gameplay stuff that I feel like there's a couple slowdowns, like the PAL card. Like, that's one of those ones that it is, especially the more I play, it's always kind of like, okay, here's this, like, let's go backtrack and so on. Which, granted, I'm glad that in Twin Snakes they sort of fixed that. You got to kind of find it. It's a secret, but you can literally drop hang over on the far right side, and you can
get burned.
Yeah, you get burned or you get frozen by like that stuff, and it really cuts that time drastically. You know, you could probably do it in probably 5 minutes instead of 27 minutes, you know, or maybe a little bit longer, but still not too bad. And then even just stuff like sometimes like things like having to go back and get the sniper rifle always seems like, you know, if Meryl wasn't being such a bitch and not letting me go through this door.
Well, that's one comment that I'll say is the blast door in between the snowfield and the first facility that you have like the basement floors and all that. That part where you have the lasers that you have to like slowly go through, you know, they're going up and down and whatnot. And you can either use the cigarettes to see it, or you can use the infrared goggles or whatever. That is fucking annoying. And why at the very end, like on your last run through that they just turn off? You know, just like at the end, you know,
Right.
it's like leading up to this point. So you get your final item, and it's just like, okay, that's not a thing anymore. Just go ahead and run through.
He's made it through before. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's like that, and there's that other thermal one where you have to go get the PSG one, and it's got this weird thing that's like you need to go diagonally and forward through, but the game just doesn't. It wasn't really made for diagonal movement, like in that sort of way. So it's always like a weird shuffle, like don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. Fuck, I touched it.
Yep.
Whatever. Grab the gun. I'm out of here.
Yep. Well, it was like I think I had 2 deaths in the game, one of which being because I touched one of those lasers in the blast door room, you know, and the gas comes out and just like fucking instant kills.
Right.
It's like, well, that's dumb.
That one gets me at least about once, you know. You know, I just accidentally, you know, because you're just doing the little shuffle, and then there's those signs that one.
Or you're trying to go too fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get cocky and you think you could just make it through there, and you can't.
There is a pattern where you can just run right through, because they do it. There's like a very certain like pattern sequence that'll line up with each other or whatever, where you can just sprint right through.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Dude, I fucked up on my second playthrough, and I used up all my chaff grenades, not realizing I didn't have my bandana on, and I got to the tank battle just to have to turn around and run back through the lasers.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna say, like how tough would that tank battle be without the chaff grenades?
Oh, you can't get up to them.
I guess
It's brutal.
You can.
Can you crawl up to it?
So if you hug the left side of the map, there's, you know, those couple hills or whatever, and you just have to time it basically. Like you can get to a certain spot where you're basically on top of the hill, but the shells still can't hit you or whatever, and you just basically have to time it. So like if you're looking in first person, he'll fire, it'll hit the hill in front of you, and as long as you just immediately sprint like diagonal left from there to one of those pillars, and then from that point, then the boss battle actually starts, and he starts rolling towards you. So you can do it, because that's how I got through it. So
Nice.
So I
did not do that. I ran all the way back for chaff grenades.
You go back. Gotta go through stupid lasers again. Yeah.
That shit was funny though, with the bandana, just hucking grenades up in there, and I was just like, well, one of these is gonna blow this dude up when he, you know, crawls back up in this hatch.
Yep.
Yeah, just keep throwing them and so on like that. Yeah, no. Yeah.
What an interesting concept for a boss battle, dude. Just like chucking grenades down a hatch, you know, of like this guy just popping out, and then another one pops out, you know, after you kill the first guy. It's like, okay, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Some Ukrainian somewhere was playing that. It was like, oh, a Nikita launcher. Let's strap a bomb to a drone.
Yeah.
Exactly, driving in, yeah, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the fact that also like there's like the other guy in there, and you don't really question it, I guess, right away. But like, hey, well, what about that one guy who was like hassling me at first? You know, it's like, what happened to that guy? I killed two soldiers, and then
How did two
just-
genome soldiers and Raven fit in that fucking tank? You know, that dude's a beast.
Right.
You know? Like,
Right. Dude, with the Twin Snakes version too, and he throws the grenade down the gun tube.
Yeah.
And Vulcan Raven opens it up and it like falls into his lap. How's he lived during that?
Yeah, exactly.
Power of the Raven.
It's just that stylized action.
Snakes don't belong in Alaska. Yeah, I love the voice lines, man. There's too many good one-liners in this game. So.
Yeah, well, that's
Right.
it's so quotable and everything like that. You know, it's quotable like Star Fox 64.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, speaking of a game that had great voice acting in it too, at a one-time period. So this one is all coming together, all the good voice acting and so on. You know, but yeah, there's just too much good stuff in this one. Just the playthroughs of it, you never can have like not an amazing time here. Yeah, it's just every time I go back to it, it always holds up. Always is just one of the best experiences. Even if some things, you know, can be, as I said, a couple little small things in there, but like for the fact that like it's the first like major 3D game that they got kind of going, especially at Konami. It might be like the first 3D game that they really have at Konami that's fully 3D. I don't know, because like I really can't think of something that's right before it. You know, there's the Contra game, but it's a side scroller. In 3D, and then there's the one that's a top-down one, but not like a full-on like 3D thing. And then technically the next thing would be Silent Hill, but yeah.
Now, what I look forward to is that my son has been getting into the retro stuff like I have, and like very commonly he's always wanting to play like the PS2 with me and whatnot. He's not ready for Metal Gear. I mean, he's 6, you know, like he's not ready for Metal Gear, but I cannot wait
Too
for
early.
that day because we're gonna sit and we're gonna play Metal Gear. You know, I very much look forward to that. So.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like one of
that'll
those
be
ones.
fun.
Just a couple of years is probably all it'll take to get to about that point, you know. I would
Well,
say,
I know
like,
when we all played it, it was probably too early.
Yeah.
yeah, well, because I played it literally. I would have been, I guess, 11 or so, because I probably played it like a year after it came out or something like that.
Yeah.
I almost want to say because I remember playing it like when the Dreamcast first came out. It was like I remember that was almost kind of what it was tied to. Like I think John was playing my Dreamcast and I was playing Metal Gear Solid. You know, so it must have been like late '99 or something like that. But yeah, even still at that point, 12 years old. Well, actually, I'd say that's about probably pretty good to kind of give it the old initial start and so on like that. Of course, you'll get more in-depth stuff the farther down you play in life. But a lot of times, I think. A lot of times for a kid, though, I think that like 10 is like the best age. That like from 10's like open the fucking floodgate doors at that point. Like by that point, like it doesn't mean, you know, show them any of all the good movies. Show them all. I feel like you can pretty much start to comprehend everything pretty darn well from there. You'll get better, but like that's a good starting point.
Well, and that's kind of the thing too, is like, you know, this game in particular as well is like, it's not insanely graphic or anything. A lot of the core concepts of like what the narrative and lore is of this game are so far-fetched that like a 10-year-old will never understand it. I didn't understand it at 10 years old. But it also is so deep that I mean, there's 12-hour long videos on YouTube just like describing one character, you know, like in these games and stuff, you know. So I mean, there's a lot to unpack and there's a lot to think about. And again, like, yeah, I do believe like by the time Jason turns about 10, like, yeah, we'll probably be playing this, you know. So.
Well, that's like the first time you pull out Metal Gear Solid, you pull out Resident Evil, you pull out all these ones, and just like, here you go. I think it's like that weird one that's like, you know, I think a lot of times rated R stuff and like, you know, mature rated things, it's like you can kind of comprehend it then. I mean, like you don't go and pick the most like ridiculous stuff out there. You work your way through like, you know, but like I feel like that stuff, it's like, it's like in the themes and everything anyways, it's like I think it still kind of plays at a pretty wide range. You know, it's kind of like when you're a kid and like when you watch action movies and so on like that. I think you notice different things as a kid that you do as an adult. You know, I think sometimes adults see like, holy shit, did you see that scene? Like, and the kid just goes, who cares? that they want to see the cool car chase. They want to see the explosions. You know, they want to see their favorite characters. You know, they're not paying attention to sometimes some of those small things. They're not going to pay attention to the scene that Meryl was raped over and over again that she mentions it in the background.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that
Well, that's what makes it so good.
And that she's just happy that she actually got out and she can be with Snake now, and like that she can be free and safe. You know, you get those hardcore stuff like later on in life.
Yep.
Yeah. No, and like everybody gets like a different experience, and like, you know, all three of us just named a different character of like our favorite character of MGS1. To me, it's on the same level as like the Mass Effect trilogy, not Andromeda, but the first Mass Effect trilogy. Anybody who plays that for the first time and then you discuss your decisions and like the relationships you choose to build, there's endless opportunity for variety, and everybody's going to find their own little, you know, lane that they like to, you know, constantly follow. It's the same way with Metal Gear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'll say I think Mass Effect's a good one that kind of when I think of like, I know I'm gonna say modern, but that game's almost strange to think about. That game's they're like 15 plus years old. But is that game, I feel like that's a modern one where I'd be like, it's in that Metal Gear Solid kind of category where you're like, wow, this is almost like life changing when you kind of go through this experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like you'll see shit in there that will, like, you know, you'll have these experiences that you'll carry for the rest of your life. And Mass Effect's a perfect example of that as well too. You know, yeah, just, you know, in that kind of sense, it's like it does give you that thing of like, you go on this fucking adventure and these characters are with you and you really like enjoy the lore and the backstories and everything.
Yep.
But yeah, that's good old Metal Gear Solid talk and so on like that. Any final thoughts anybody's got on this run through that we just had, or a couple run throughs even?
We have to do the same thing for Delta.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm down for that because that'll be fun. I know I'm just kind of, this even puts me into the Metal Gear Solid mood, and as I said, I'm kind of having a hankering to play, either that Game Boy Color one or Metal Gear Solid 4. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I almost think that should I savor myself for when Metal Gear Solid 4 comes out in the collection. I'm fine with playing the Game Boy Color one. I don't think I'm going to be missing out too much when that comes on the collection. I'll probably just be more disappointed that it's not on there.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna wait myself. For sure.
I think so. And just let that experience be really satisfactory, because really I haven't played, like, because when I got a PS3 kind of like total late in the cycle, and then I got that game and I played through it like 3 times over in a row, but then I don't think I've played it since then though. Like,
really,
I played the living daylights out of it right then and there, and then it's been a moment.
Yeah, it's probably been about 10 years for me since the last time I played it.
So
yeah,
it's almost like one of those ones that I think that might be the best thing to do, is just to wait on that probably. The other one I thought about playing again though too is Metal Gear 2, not Metal Gear Solid 2, but Metal Gear 2, because that's the one too that's like, I feel like that's the real hidden gem of Metal Gear that people don't
I fucking love 2 so much.
So fucking good. And I know a lot of the stuff that's in Metal Gear Solid, that what makes Metal Gear Solid really awesome is built in 2, because it's like, weirdly enough, even though it's a continual story, that's almost like a partial remake too, because they do just kind of pull certain concepts that were good, but then they expand on them in this one. But dude, Metal Gear 2 for MSX, like, holy crap, is that game so good. You know, and I think it's that thing that there's just a lot of people out there that never really played it. Granted, it wasn't the easiest thing to come across until Subsistence came out, but still.
Well, and without games like that, I mean, like, you know, like a game that we played earlier this year was that Conscript, that survival horror game. And like, we both said, like, from the get-go, we're just like, dude, this plays just like Metal Gear, like the original Metal Gears and whatnot, you know, like in terms of its movement and stuff. So yeah,
it's World War I Metal Gear that has horror elements. I mean, what's not to like, you know? You get to club people over the head with a shovel.
Yeah.
And it's a really satisfactory sound that you get from it too.
Yep. Yeah, that game was sick. I liked it.
Yeah, that's why I told you about that one, Josh. But you got to check that one out at some point. When it, you know, holy crap! If you want that World War I experience, it's really fucking good. I thought
that sounds cool.
There's some horrific shit in that game, dude, for sure. So
yeah, it was neat, but yeah, there's just some cool Metal Gear stuff out there, but I think there's enough stuff. I'm gonna play some of those oddball ones, probably to hold me over till Delta, and then hopefully that collection comes out and go from there. But yeah, beyond all that good stuff, you can always check out all the Old Man Orange podcasts as well as Silent Evil ones on YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I am Cameron.
And Josh.
And we'll see you all later.